Hello from my canoe and welcome back to another ultralight fishing video. In today's video, I've got an hour and a half to fish, and I am going to be primarily talking about the Spro Finesse Braid. This line has quickly become one of my favorite ultralight lines, and I'm gonna talk a lot about that. So I'm basically just gonna fish with one ultralight setup, catch whatever we can catch, and just basically talk about the pros and cons of this line right here. And then at the end of the video, hopefully you know whether it's a good option for you or not. Anyways, the less I talk, the more I fish, so let's fish. So first and foremost, I've got this strung up on a Shimano Sedona size 1000 spinning reel and the Daiwa Kage 6'1" ultralight. I got a little 1/16 ounce workhorse jig on there with a horsefly. We're gonna start with that. Got some other ultralight gear in the back in case I need to switch. Very nice, calm, still day. And actually it's kind of overcast, but it feels great outside. It's probably like 62, 64 degrees. There's one. Wonder, this will probably be a little bass. There we go. Took several casts in a few minutes, but we're on the board. He kind of bit it while it was falling down towards the bottom. Oh boy. It's actually not a bad fish, I don't think. At first I thought he was gonna be a small bass, but I think he's gonna be a little bit bigger than I realized. And my drag might be just a little too tight. Try to loosen that a little bit. Oh, it's a pike. It's a pike. It's a daggum pike. It's actually the first pike I've caught in here, believe it or not. Oh gosh, he just sprayed me with water. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, I hooked him really good. I don't think he's got any thread on my line right now. Look at that. Oh, golly, they just gotta be so wild. Chill out, chill out. Of course, I don't bring my net in the canoe. Yeah, of course he's gonna latch on. There we go. All right, look at that. He's latching on. Let go. There you go. Oh. One way to do it. You know, I've really switched to braided fishing line for a lot of my ultralight setups, and if you've been watching my channel for the last year, you would know that this has been a line that you see quite often. Anytime you see the pink line, it is the Spro. I really like the fact that they offer it in pink. That's very unique, but what's nice about pink is it is high visibility, and anytime you hear me talk about braided fishing line in general, I pretty much always like high vis. Not necessarily for like big bait casters and frog fishing and stuff like that, but for spinning rods and finesse techniques, I feel like high visibility line is so incredibly important, and I know that Spro offers this in both a bright green as well as a pink. I chose the pink because I thought it would look cool, and it really does. I think it looks super cool and it's totally unique. So the high visibility line, obviously it helps detect bites because you can visually see your line moving. And with ultralight fishing and just finesse fishing in general, you know, that's a huge percentage of your bites. And so that's why I like the high vis. Now, aside from the high vis, the other things I like about Braid is the fact that it has no stretch. So whether you're talking about Spro or any other brand, Braid basically has zero stretch, which is nice because it makes it super sensitive and it allows you to set the hook and make sure that you're getting a good hook set and just maintaining contact with that fish. You know, a monofilament or a copolymer is going to have some stretch to it, and so sometimes that's going to, you know, translate to bite detection as well as, you know, hook penetration. So it is important to use the right type of line for the conditions and the type of fishing you're doing, but I would say 90% of the time I feel like I can get away with a braid with a zero stretch. There's one. I started reeling it up off the bottom and this one just smoked it. Big old perch. There you go. Okay, 2 species. Not a bad little perch right there. That's a healthy fish. And I was literally like, had this thing sitting on the bottom. I reeled it up pretty hard just to start I was gonna go cast it again, and he hammered it. Huh, that might have just told me something. Maybe they want like a little bit more erratic retrieve off the bottom, who knows? Could have just been a fluke too, you never know. Okay, so speaking a little bit more specifically to this Spro Finesse Braid, one of the things that really appeals to me about this line is the fact that it has absolutely zero memory. And sometimes what I've found with braided fishing lines is the fact that they get a little coily, a little bit wiry, and this one does not. It's extremely, there's another fish. It is so smooth. And when you go to cast it, that really comes through. So you can really get maximum casting distance, and that's another really nice perch. I think I might have just found where the perch are hanging out. Golly, look at this one. He's long. That one's even bigger than the last one. Look at that. That's a nice fish. Good deal. Okay, I like this spot. Anyways, what I was saying is this braid is really smooth. It casts extremely effectively. And the nice thing about braid is it's a very, very low diameter. This line is 0.1 millimeters. So that is a really, really low diameter. And what that does is it increases casting distance. The big thing is if your braid has a lot of coiling and memory issues, then unfortunately that's going to offset that casting distance. So it's really, really important that not only is it low diameter, but it needs to be smooth. And I can tell you this Spro is about as smooth as it gets. That does lead me to one other thing though. You know, I've done a video on the Daiwa J Braid X8 Grand, and that is another braid that you'll see me use a lot. And I've talked about that, and quite honestly, they're very, very similar. The Spro is actually over $30 in price. This is not a cheap line, and I definitely think it's a little bit better than the J Braid. However, I must say, I do use the J Braid more often because it is definitely more cost effective. It's roughly half the price, essentially. The only reason that I think I like this line just a little bit more than the J Braid is the fact that I've never really had any breaking issues with this one. Whereas with the J Braid, I have actually randomly broken it a few times, and it just felt like totally random. Like I said, like I'd go to set the hook and it just snapped, and I didn't understand what was causing that. And it's happened probably 2 or 3 times. And that is very, very uncommon for braid. So I don't know if it has something with abrasion problems or if it just has random weak points or what, but the J Braid does snap randomly in my experience. Now that's not to say that that's gonna happen with every single spool, but it's happened to me a couple times. So I thought it was worth noting. That has never happened to me with this line. And I've been fishing this same exact line for close to a year now. And I can tell you it's been very, very consistent. The other thing that I really, really like is the fact that I've had like no wind knots with it, which a lot of people are going to tell you they don't like braid because they get wind knots and it gets all coiled up and it ties knots around itself. But I can tell you I've actually never had that experience with this line right here. Quite honestly, the consistency that you get out of this line, yes, you pay a premium, but you can always trust it. And I think that that's super important because on the water, the last thing you want to be doing is messing with tangles and messing with knots. There's a bite. I swear I'm getting a bite. Swear I'm getting a bite. Oh. I don't know what was going on down there, if there's a little perch pulling on the tail or what. Sensitivity, I'm telling you guys, you can feel everything. You know, pair a really high quality sensitive rod with a high quality sensitive braid and you're really gonna be cooking, I'm telling you. And you know, that was one thing that I do want to talk about. You know, I've talked about in the past in some of my ultralight rod videos how I have some concerns in using braid with certain rods because the braid sometimes wraps the rod tip. I can tell you that that is more common when you're using a lower quality braid because of the fact that it gets coily and wiry. You know, I used some Berkeley braid there for a while, the Fire line, and I was not a huge fan of it because, and you know, that's a personal thing. I'm nothing against Fire line, but personally I didn't like it a lot because, there's a bite, because it did have that really wiry feeling to it. I'm not sure what this will be. Is this, what is this? This is a bass? Yep, little bass. And this line just does not have that wiry feeling at all. And so what I've realized is that, that's one way to do it. Okay, there you go. 3 species. What I've realized is essentially that if you're using a really high quality braid that has super, super supple feel to it, really smooth like this, just always goes back to its form, never has any coils or memory at all. If you use that, you should really not have that many issues with regards to wrapping your rod tip. It is a lot more prominent on those lower quality braids. Personally, in my opinion, when it comes to fishing line, I would say if you don't want to spend a lot of money, go with a copolymer like a Trilene Sensation or a Yozuri hybrid. But if you want to spend just a little bit more and get something a little bit higher quality, you got to go with like a higher quality braid. What I wouldn't do is buy a super budget braid because I feel like a super budget braid reduces casting distance, increases wind knots, and causes line wrap problems with your rod. So I would kind of avoid those cheaper, lower quality braids. I'm still experimenting with other lines too, so make sure to stay tuned throughout the rest of this summer. I have full intentions of doing some more line videos. I've got probably 4 or 5 spools at home that I still haven't even spooled up on reels because they're ones that I want to test, but I just haven't had the time to put them on a reel. And I don't want to waste line either, so I always like to fish line until it's really shot. So I've got stuff sitting there waiting to be used, but I'm not going to get rid of good line to put it on. I'm just going to embrace, there's one. I'm just going to embrace the fact that the wind's going to blow me down and I'm just going to cast wherever the wind takes me. That's what I'm going to do. It's got to be a little bass. Yes, sir. Gotta love it when they jump like that. He's turning it on right next to the canoe. He's like, I do not want to go in that canoe. Buddy, I will put you right back. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Oh, look at that guy. There you go. An absolute giant, my friends. Definitely not a giant, but always a wonderful time. A little light setup like such. Light line, jumping by the canoe. Actually, I'll tell you what, no matter what setup you use, if you're fishing from a canoe, the fight is always just a little bit more crazy. Oh yeah, I felt that line. I felt that line just rattle. And it's just a little yellow perch. I literally had slack in my line and I felt this. It just sent shocks down the line and into the rod blank. Oh, buddy. Gee, I wonder what this one is. You think it's a male or a female? Oh my gosh, that's just straight up disrespect. I mean, come on. I wonder what the perch are up to right now. My goodness. Oh, every year this happens to me. Ugh, they just can't control themselves, I'm telling you. Ugh. Okay, well, that's... yeah. I still have yet to buy a new spool of this, but I keep telling myself I'm going to. There's a fish. That's got to be a gill. Wait. What is this? What is this? Oh, it's just a weird perch. He fought so weird. All right, buddy. You all right? There you go. Oh, look at that. Look at that. See you, bud. I do want to buy a new spool of this because I would like to spool it up on another reel. There's one. Ooh, that's what I'm talking about. I knew we'd get that bluegill. Look at this guy. That's a nice beefcake right there. All right, and he is feisty. He did not like that. He did not like that. That's a beefcake. Check out the beefy gill, my friends. Love me some gill action, my friends. There you go. Nice big male gill. Now that I'm on a bank that's halfway still, I wanted to circle back on this idea of watching your line. So in this case, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cast it up there on that bank. And that pink line, I can just see it so clearly because it contrasts against the water. And I've got my sunglasses on too, which make it a little bit easier to see it. But what I'm doing is I'm just watching it. And obviously when that jig is falling, it's gonna be, you know, kind of taut and you're gonna see it. And then the second it hits the bottom, it's gonna go slack. But either way, the thing that you want to look for is as that jig is falling, if you see your line stop too early, or maybe it goes to the side, or maybe it just jumps a little bit, that's when you know you just got a bite. And that is so advantageous with these light line presentations because so many of your bites come on the fall. Like I'm talking like the absolute bulk of your bites on jig fishing, they come on the fall. And I think a lot of people miss fish because they never realize they're getting bites. And that is crucial, and that is why I think that if you use braided fishing line, you're positioning yourself for more fish and probably more chances at big fish too. Oh man, I love spring. I just love spring. Like, what is not to love about spring? Spring is the best. It's the best season. I know, you know, I say I like fall, I say I like summer, but spring, man. Spring is the best season. It's just anyone that says winter is the best season though, clearly they have like a serious winter hobby, but I think you're crazy if you think winter is the best season. Spring is the best. Look at that one. You think he wanted it? My goodness. Might not be a big fish, but he definitely wanted that thing. He choked it. Ugh, let go. There you go. Chunky little bass. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for the fight. Appreciate you. I'm gonna interrupt the video for just a quick second to give a shout out to Discount Tackle. So Discount Tackle is an online fishing retailer that I've been working with for the last couple years. Essentially, they help get me geared up for fishing videos, and they also provide me with an affiliate link. So anytime you see me link Discount Tackle in the description below, that's an affiliate link. And essentially, if you buy through those links, it allows me to get a little bit of a kickback that I use to reinvest into this channel, buy more gear, buy more camera gear, and go on more fishing trips. So thank you so much in advance if you happen to use those links. It really, really is appreciated, and it really, really helps. Also, Discount Tackle has super fast shipping. They have a ton of fishing gear. So pretty much anything you want, you can get there. And they're just super nice people. So that's obviously always a plus. I like doing business with nice people, and that is why I like doing business with Discount Tackle. Anyways, let's get back to the fishing. There he is. Just a little bass. They're all the same size. Oh, he came unhooked and fell in my lap. Ay, ay, ay. these fish. See you, buddy. Oh, getting these little tiny bites. These are either tiny perch or tiny bluegill, I don't know. One thing as an angler that I do that I recognize I need to stop doing, but I can't, is anytime I get bites, even if they're really small and they feel like they're probably tiny bluegill, I cannot help myself. I then view it as a challenge and I feel like I want to catch the fish even more. And so I end up spending so much time on small fish, and it's just because I really don't like it when I feel like the fish wins. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but I totally just caught this fish, so that makes me feel better. Okay, this happens to be a little dinky bass. It's been a day of dinky bass, that's for sure, but I'll certainly take him. I had a couple little short strikes on this bank, and I'm thinking they were probably dinky gills, but the good news is I won. I caught a fish. There you go. I am just so stubborn though. I mean, obviously I catch my fair share of tiny fish. You know, I am truly the dink master, and I like to embrace that. And so anytime I get like little tiny bites and I don't get the fish to actually commit, I just can't help myself. I want to, you know, truly embrace my title as dink master. And so I'll just sit there and fish for that fish for like 10 more minutes. And I end up wasting so much time doing that. And I recognize it. I recognize it's something I need to change, but I just can't change. And there you go. Persistence paid off. And what is this going to be? Is it going to be another bass? I think it's going to be another bass, my friends. There you go. It's that last one's twin brother. Look at this little guy, this little Jimmy. It's just a little Jimmy. There you go, little Jimmy. Little Jimmy coming out to play. I do love this Daiwa Kage Rod, but I'm considering selling it locally to buy another new rod, because a lot of you have recommended several rods, and at the end of the day, every time I try a new rod, I need to get rid of one because I really don't need the amount that I have. So as much as I love this one, I think I might just try to throw it on the old Facebook marketplace and see if I can hopefully get a little bit of money for it, because I have been recommended a couple rods to test that are not cheap. And that perch right there is a good time. But I tell you what, I do really, really like this rod, and it's gonna hurt to sell it, but I think I might just have to do that. There's been a couple expensive ones, so I think a lot of people have actually recommended old 18 suppressor, not a cheap rod, several recommendations, I mean a lot of recommendations for Phoenix rods, and Phoenix makes some very high dollar equipment. And so ultimately, if I can sell this thing right here, I'll use that money and I might just go out and get a fancy ultralight stick to test out. So stay tuned for that. And my friends, there's another nice yellow perch right there. That's a beauty. Look at that guy right there. You love to see it, you truly do. All right, buddy, thanks for the fight. Yeah. He's coming right at me. I don't know what this is. Oh, cool, we're gonna end on a dinky little yellow perch, but I'll tell you what, we had a successful little trip. And I was really only out here for a little over an hour, so that tells you that it was obviously a fun little trip. And always a good time catching fish in the canoe. Okay, as I've been talking about, I'm super hungry, so I'm gonna make this really brief. All in all, do I recommend this line? Absolutely I do. I would actually say that the Spro Finesse Braid is probably my favorite ultralight line that I've used yet. So that's saying something because I've used quite a few lines. That being said, I'm gonna continue to experiment with more lines in the future, so stay tuned. Make sure to click subscribe if you haven't already. If you want a high quality braid and you're willing to spend a little bit of money, I would go with this. If you don't want to spend quite this much, I think a really, really good alternate would be the Daiwa J Braid X8 Grand. That's a high quality line. It's also really good and I use it all the time. And then other than that, I would say there's a couple of great copolymers for a super budget friendly price. Yozuri Hybrid is wonderful. Same thing with Trilene Sensation. I like those two for just like a simple budget price. They get the job done. They're not going to be anything fancy, but they catch fish. All in all, thank you so much for watching today's video. Make sure to stay tuned for more. We'll catch you next time.